Welcome, I'm Bill Wake. We're here working on a program called Fiume, and its goal is to help you analyze financial money streams or pools of money in medium to long term. And one of the things we're doing is we'd like to have the notion that you can be a percent of something else. So the classic one for me anyway is if, depending on how much money the spouse has earned and so on, but there's some circumstances where one spouse's Social Security is 50% of the others or the other's eligible amount or something, but it's a relative number. You sometimes get this with pools of money too. Sometimes you get maybe you get a third, you have ownership of a third of a house, say. You and your two siblings inherited it from your parents. And so the price of the total house is really a third of that is what you get. All right. Now, we've been working on this for a while because I've been in and out and here and gone. I'm a little out of context on things, so we're going to have to do some reviewing to make sense of things, at least for me. Some of you are probably better at this than I am. All right. The other thing is I published a new blog last week, Thursday, when I was already heading out of town, run tests without an app, step by step with Xcode. So I took one of the things we worked on a couple weeks ago was to make our unit tests run faster. And I worked through that approach, which is basically you put your model classes in a framework, and then at the end, I thought I made an image with this circled, but in the end, you can mark host application none that says when I'm running it, don't create my whole app and then run my stuff in it. Just run it in its own context. And that prevents the whole app startup, which interacts with persistence or settings or lots of other things you might have. And you don't pay the price for any of that. So it was a good speed up for us. You still pay the price of building. Somebody from Apple pointed out I'm running a non-standard configuration because I'm running Swift testing on the old Xcode, and we don't expect our results to be as good as it'll be when the next release comes out. So, but that's the build side. It's not like from when it starts running the test till it's done. That part's a lot faster with this approach, regardless. I'm looking forward to getting the new release though, and kind of catching up on things. I hesitate to install beta releases. I'm not supporting any real people, but it just seems like, one more thing I don't need to worry about. All right. Okay. So let's see. Let me go to a couple things. If somebody's completely new, this will be helpful, I think. We've identified a couple of key things in our app, and one of them is something I end up calling Leia because it's a single object that represents something that's either a liability, an expense, an income, or an asset. And so, income's probably the easiest one to explain, right? You get a salary and you get paid so much a month. Expense is the flip side. You have a house payment and you must pay so much a month. And then assets and liabilities are more fixed amounts of things. You have $100,000 in a savings account, or you owe a mortgage of $100,000. All right. And at any rate, there's this object, and we've defined them to represent some sort of money. Well, it basically has a name and an ID, but it represents some sort of money, and it also has a first and last date. So if you started work January 1st and you work through October, we could put January through October on our date range. And when we're adding things up, we won't count dates that are outside of that range. Okay, now let's see. The second thing is amount. I think I have that here. Yeah. Okay, so up until a couple weeks ago, you just had your money, and that's how much you had in an asset, or I don't know. I say a Leia because I don't know if there's a domain term for things that are assets, liabilities, income, or expenses. But originally you just had the case for money. So you had a salary that got you $1,000 a month. That's great. We're trying to add this notion of a relative amount, and So this is a percentage of a named stream or income or expense or whatever. So if I promise to give you half of my salary, I'll put 0.5, and then whatever I call that salary stream, Joe's salary, that'll be the string. Now, we could make this go by IDs, and there's some complexity we haven't gotten into with it, but for right now, this is the growth we're trying to make, go from money to relative. We want to support money still because the original salary is going to have an actual amount of dollars. And I haven't worried about internationalization yet either, but I do have a money class, so minimal as it is. Okay, so there's amount view. Okay, and this is kind of where things are partly there and partly not, I think. So we want to say how much money is in a stream or a pool. Okay, stream is income or expense, pool is asset or liability. They're very similar, and I don't know if, again, there might be a way to fold that together, but I don't have the concept yet from an accounting point of view. Okay, and so at any rate, if we're looking at a stream, we share a class amount view. If it's a pool, it also calls amount view to display the thing. The big difference really is the colors that get used depending on exactly what type of thing it is. I don't know if that's enough to justify that or whatever, but okay. But they all call amount view. So let's go there. Okay, and so right now we look at the wrapped value, and if it's money, we just set those values. I guess this is really setting up the initial state. So depending whether you gave it dollars or a relative amount, it sets up these values, and then when we update them, we treat them separately. We have the notion of the amount. In dollars, it's just plain old amount. In relative, it's a relative instance, not a money instance now. Okay, and then again, I'm not quite sure where we left things, but I don't know if we're calling. Well, okay, we have amount view is being called with relative or not. Okay, so we're going to select amount type, that's money or relative. And then depending on which one it is, we're going to display a different view. Now, the money view, money amount view, that's the view we always have had pulled into its own thing. Let's bring that up. Is it here too? All right. But it basically just displays the dollar amount in a field. Okay. And, the relative amount view, that's the one we started working on, and we're hitting some stuff. Okay. And I think what we're hitting, it's not exactly something we have to backtrack over, but it's sort of the concept. Oh, sorry, I lost my chat again. Okay, I'm early today. Oops. I must have misread my clock. Okay. The challenge we have is, so the simplest example of this was there's a place where we write, we have kind of a summary view, and you say, here's an income stream, it's X dollars per month. And that's perfectly valid for a simple income stream based on money. But if the thing is based on a relative amount to some other stream, we can't really say how much it is yet, because it kind of depends. Well, we have this notion of scenarios. It depends which scenario you're in for one thing, but it also just depends on, there's no fixed degree of it, because like it depends on the relative dates of that stream and the relative dates of the relative stream, the relative amount. It's just a very complicated thing, and you can't just say take the amount and that's what it is. So we had to make sure that we were examining. Let's see. I don't know if we can see it in here. No. But at any rate, we have to make sure when we display this thing that we're really saying it's 50% of this other stream, not trying to say, well, that other stream's $1,000. It started in January. It ends in October. We get our share starting in March and ending in December. There's no fixed amount that it is anymore. And so we're, okay, Tooks. So there's no fixed amount we can say it is. And I don't think we should. I mean, what's interesting is not what amount it is per se, but what it is relative to the other thing. Now, at some point you have to, if you're going to compute your net worth, you got to take it into account by its value. But, and so that was an easy one. And there are other ones kicking around, and I am woefully, I guess I'm just forgetful is probably the way to say it, but I just don't remember what we got done and what we didn't get done. I remember we were stuck with debugging views and trying to make sense of why it was not running because something was there, and I don't know. Let's run and see if that shows us what I'm talking about. I think we just kind of patched something up to work enough to get it to run. Or maybe we didn't. We'll find out. Okay, and I did not restart that beforehand. I guess I don't need to have that running. Okay. Well, and this is like I talk about the build being slow sometimes. All right, it's launching. All right, here we go. Was the percentage not sticking? That could be it. There were definitely things wrong. I know that. And I think there's things wrong in the underlying implementation too. I mean, I know for one thing, we haven't worried about the case of if I say my salary is half of yours and you say my salary is 40% of yours, it's like it's a loop and it doesn't have a closing point. Okay, well that's good. That's well, we'll find out if we can view these. Okay, yeah. So this reflects a relatively complicated thing. We've got things kicking in on different dates and so on. So that's okay. Now here I got asset relative income. If this is really a relative income and it's saying $0 per month, well, it probably should be a percentage of some other thing. Now, the thing is, we don't. Okay. Oh, we put that in. Okay. I'm I didn't think we'd got that far. I think this is a field you can type in. Yeah. Okay. So, and I don't really like the form view of this, but I mean, there's probably a way I can get a little background. Excuse me. A little background somewhere, but yeah, maybe this is what didn't save. Let's update it. Oh, it's going to blow up now. Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't save. It's finding a scenario stream that doesn't exist. Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we're hitting some of those error things. If I don't have a Social Security, but I say I'm paying you 50% of that, you can't really get the value, and we shouldn't let you try. Now, I think well, let's see. I'm not sure where's our entry point to all this. This is kind of a UI issue and kind of an underlying issue. There was a problem with scenario. Yeah, maybe so. But I think in this case, I don't think I had uh, oh, we still have it. Can I get back out? No. Well, of these streams, none of them were named Social Security. So we got somewhere far enough, and it maybe is the scenario. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look like it, but we got far enough to say find that stream, and use it to calculate the money. Now, I think it's doing this at display time, not at compute the scenarios time, is what I think is the problem. That this value is not real yet. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm getting there. Are we in 15 minutes in? All right. Yeah. So we ask created amount in the view, and there is no amount really. I mean, with the Social Security, we're sort of promising we will have one at some point to be relative to, and maybe it's worth a warning if we generate an access to it and it's not there. But we don't have any warnings like that currently, and I really don't think our view should be displaying the created amount. And so let's see where that's coming from. I mean, this, I don't know. The UI is always kind of hard for me in a way because of I'm mostly not willing to test. I mean, I follow John Reed, and he's very good about doing a lot of testing on there, but I find that it just feels like it costs so much to test that way, and it's so vulnerable. I just tend not to. If I'm designing a brand new component, I might go to that trouble, but that's very rare for me. Okay, so created amount, and who calls that? Okay. Yeah, so, okay, right. So if you save off of that amount view, we say it's going to be money, but that's not true. It's only money if we've selected the money side, not for the relative side. So I think what's happening, because it's accessing created amount, which it should not, it didn't matter before, it was reasonable, but if there's multiple ways to do this, it's definitely wrong to say it's always created amount. So I'm not sure the right way around this. And our stream views are so similar, they probably have a similar problem. Oh dear. Will I deploy this app in the store? I would think almost certainly not. I think you could if, well, the thing is, like a financial application, I feel like I'm buying potential liability from somebody if they screw up their retirement because something I made confusing or something like that. So no, I don't think I will. I do have in mind though that kind of on my future project list, I want to come back to the kaleidoscope because that felt like it was very close to just being like, push it and we'd be done. So my theory is I'm going to wait till I think it's September when the next iOS comes out, update that thing to that, and then deploy it just to have that kind of win on things. I don't anticipate it'll make me a retirement income bonus or anything, but just to get something deployed using this stuff, I think is probably a good thing. All right, so basically this assumption, yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to. Because we were working with money before, we had assumptions about how do you create the objects the Leias that we need to create, and those assumptions don't hold consistently. I mean, in the world where we have two ways of creating amounts, they don't hold. They wrapped. Welcome. Thanks for subscribing again. I appreciate it so much. All right. Everyone should, not just the people here, everyone. That'll fund me a retirement. Okay. All right. So how are we going to get out of this? Well, let's see. I think created amount. Well, maybe created amount is just wrong. It doesn't look at, well, it looks at amount spec dot value. Let's look at amount spec. Okay, we've been there today. All right, so it's building off amount spec. I think it should just pass back the amount. All right, let's see. So that was EditStream view. Okay, so I think my goal is to make created amount return an amount instead of returning a money. I think it does now. An int, even less than a money. I think it should return me an amount. Okay, so let's make it do that. I'm trying to think if I want to go to any. All right, let's take the shortest way, because I think we saw there's only one caller. It's a file private method. Okay, I'm going to say it should return amount. All right, now it doesn't return amount. It always returns value. But let's move the money. Let's move this down there. It's going to be just as wrong, which is what a refactoring should do. We're supposed to be altering structure, not changing behavior. Oops. Okay, and let's take that out. Okay, so now if created amount did its job and returned me the right amount, I would have no problem with this line of code anyway. Plenty of room for mistakes in the others. All right, let's run it again. It's going to fail the same way. Better, okay, because, well, it'll be a different line number, but it'll be failing for the same reason. Yeah, starts up a lot faster now. Okay, on the second one. All right, so notice this was 0, which is not correct for what we said. All right, now we also are not keeping track of the fact that it's a relative amount, and we lost the value we put in. All right, now I update, and it should blow up. Good. Okay. And it's blowing up on that same problem. Well, it's the find. That doesn't really demonstrate the problem we had, does it? Can I continue? I doubt it. No. Okay. Yeah, so amount covers both money or relative. So you can see the two cases here. Let's see, I guess up here is more obvious. Okay, so instead of just always being a money amount, you get an amount, and it could either be a money or it's a relative amount. Okay, and that's what I'm trying to do in EditStream view is say you should be creating an amount. Now, there's multiple things wrong, I guess, that's going on. So maybe we got to peel this apart. I don't think I'm getting, I think I'm getting switched around between them. Okay, so one problem is we said this should be, well, we named the asset relative income. Okay, why it's an asset, I don't know, that doesn't sound right either. All right, but the 0 a month is, it didn't preserve the fact that we had selected relative here. Okay, so that's one thing. Maybe I gotta write these down. Okay, so let's go to our to-do. Preserve relative versus money in EditStream view. Okay, now I don't know what happens if I change the amount. Does that still work? Well, I should be able to type. Okay, Now if I do an update, I'm hoping it's good. Okay, so that part works as we would kind of hope if we have done our conversion from pure money to amount that deals with money or relatives. Okay, but if we change it to relative, okay, let me change it back. Let me use a name that we use. Okay, let's use salary. So we expect 50% of salary. Okay, now that may not blow up in that same place. And if I update, okay, it is. Okay. So the error is something about storing an amount, a relative amount seems to require scenario and doesn't save properly. I guess I can put it like that. Okay. Right, EditStream View. Okay, so, and then the other thing was this that we were kind of trying to tackle, saving an amount really needs to take into account the relative amount. So, what's it called? Created amount. Back here. Okay, so EditStream View. View.createdAmount should be able to return a relative amount. Now, okay, something with that scenario, I remember 60. Yeah, I mean, there was a reason the scenario's there. Well, now maybe there's not, because I think the thing is, to calculate the value of a relative amount, you must be in a scenario, because your relative amount might be pointing to maybe I have 3 different Social Security values I'm considering for retiring at different ages, but my wife will get 50% of whichever one I choose. In that case, I need to know which scenario I'm in to calculate the actual amount that I want to add to your net worth. Okay, so that part is right, but and is that happening in amount? Yeah. So if you're calculating this, I think what's wrong is we call this thing with scenario equals nil in the view situations. And I don't think value should be called at view time or editing time. It should only be called when we're actually trying to project our scenarios out. And maybe that's, well, no, I think I want to adjust this. Okay, sign as income. And I'm also not sure I'm doing that one right. But amount, okay, amount spec dot value. See, this should really be off of the 2 cases of amount, and they get computed differently. Okay, so I think, and this is not tested, it's in the UI code. And it's also, this is income thing is, to me, is also just, there's a flaw in it. Needing to switch on this thing seems like a flaw to me, that somehow I should be able to say which it is. And maybe that may be a gap in my user interface that trying to, maybe, did we change this? Okay, I'm going to stop this again, run it again, sorry. Okay, so let's take these if I do plus, this is, yeah, I think maybe, I don't know if I should combine these things. The pool and the stream, like maybe from a domain point of view, it makes sense to say this is an asset. It's a bank account. This is a stream. It's my salary, and just say which one it is, and maybe the positive negative thing is embedded in that notion. I think that might be a better way to go. That this pool and stream, that may be an internal concept and not, it's not really a domain concept. I don't know. I mean, I think of money this way with pools and streams, and that you can have streams that draw from pools and pools that are accumulating from streams and those kind of things, you know, that there's this notion of money as a river is kind of the metaphor, or money as water. And kind of tracking how they flow in and out. I mean, kind of a future set of stories is around, I'd like to say, you know, like maybe I want to fund my, well, people, I don't know if they still do very much. They used to have Christmas Club, and you can open up a bank account, and then every month you would put $100 in your Christmas Club account, and then in December 1st you'd go in and you'd have, you know, $1,000 or $1,200. Yeah, combine them under, I'm not sure what the name of the tab is, you know, maybe it's just, you know, money or resource or something. It won't be Leia, because that's not a name anybody knows, but yeah, kind of a unified thing to say there's 4 types of things. We can handle 4 types of money flow, you know, pools of money, streams of money, in or out, those combinations. And then if I don't know. I mean, this comes to amount may not be smart enough yet. Okay. Money may not be smart enough or something, you know, it's not clear, but that's like down the road, because this is a user interface improvement when we don't have the underlying thing working. Okay. So, well, I'm just going to do it. I guess I'm hoping that we'll come back to this and simplify it. Okay, but if I have an amount spec, well, I'm doing this with an amount spec. So switch amount spec. Okay, and there's 2 cases. Good. And that should be it. Oh, do we want the unknown? Okay, so we'll put a fatal error. And this is EditStream View dot created amount unknown amount type. Okay, so it's telling the compiler, like, you know, these are the only 2 we have defined, but they're in our framework. And so it has no control over the framework being extended. And so this is its, their solution is to just put this unknown default and let you catch those cases. Okay, so case money, well, that one we know, because that's the case we have here. Okay, so we'll deal with the income. And this one, well, we're just going to return amount spec. Okay. And so if they've specified a relative amount, that's the thing that gets created. And that is fine for us to create a Leia with a relative amount, I think. Yeah, and it assumes we've done Leia right so far and an amount, but let's see if what this does. Can we see what this does? I don't know. I don't think we can, but we'll try. Okay, so relative 50% of salary. Okay, and still got to blow up in that same place. Yeah. Okay, so the question is, who's calling this created amount? Oh, wait a minute. Oh, edit pool view, we have to do similar. Okay. Yes. Good, good, good. Okay, so let's do the same transformation. And this is, again, these things are coming out so similar. It's indicating to me that they really are not separate concepts at some level. We combined Leia. We had them separate. We combined them all into a Leia. I think our view side needs to kind of manage that same thing. Okay, and so we did switch amount spec of case money. And that gets these two lines. And case dot relative will return amount spec. I'm surprised he's not complaining like he did before. Okay, and then here, we'll take off the money. Oh, this one needs to add it. Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll add the fatal error. Okay, so with this change, mirroring duplication that we've got to figure out a way around. I don't know, this may be, well, it'll be interesting to see what we can do, but there's definitely something going on that we can take advantage of. Okay, relative 50% of salary. And I'm hoping it blows up somewhere different or it just works. It looks like it's blowing up. Oh, blowing up here again. Okay, where are we? Well, this is init. Okay. That's actually a problem, isn't it? Okay, so we've moved the problem down. Now we're in our model, and we definitely can test this, but value, I don't think, oh, we're back here. Yeah, because we don't have a scenario at the point we're creating this, so, all right. Let's look at Leia, and I'm gonna close down these other ones. We'll bring them back as needed. Okay, so Leia amount original equals amount value, amount spec equals that. Well, this one, do I need to set value to 0? Yeah. So this weirdness, we have amount original and amount spec. I'm trying to not break persistence, and we started off with the amount field, and it was of type int, I think, or money, one of the two. And in the way we are now, we're going to save that value. But yeah, I think you're right. Maybe if this isn't if amount is relative, this should become 0, and that and this will be a real amount. I mean, mostly this case happens, I guess, if you're reading an okay, yeah. If you're reading an amount, a Leia, and it specifies an amount the old way, it has, $1,200. It has 1,200 there. We need to put that in, and then later on we check it somewhere, I think. Maybe we don't anymore. Oh yeah, there we go. If amount, yeah, so if they ask for an amount and there's an amount spec, we return that. Otherwise, we return the original amount, and that's a backwards compatibility thing. Which I don't know. Maybe I should just told my one customer to like, write all your stuff in again. Okay, but I think your solution is right. So let's go to tests, Leia, and we'll make this case. Okay, so I think this is actually testing the constructor directly. So we probably need to do that. Yeah, these tests all have money amounts. All right, so Leia clears amount when amount spec is used. I think that's what we're saying. But really, it's like we don't want to call this. And in this case, this is even worse, right? I mean, amount is an amount. It's always set. I guess it could be nil. But we don't specify amount original in that case. Yeah, I don't think this means anything. Okay, let's do the experiment. Let's just set it to 0 and see who blows up now. Maybe nobody will. Stop that. Well, let's run our tests before we do any mucking about. Okay, so I'm most likely going to be having the session Thursday this week after all. We were originally going out of town, but we're not anymore. So I think I'll be able to do that. And I should be here next week. I know I have travel in September, but I don't think I have anything else in August. And hopefully a little more focus on this and not spreading it out over multiple weeks with a session each week. We'll get this thing knocked into the right shape. But I think that the fundamental thing we're doing is we're changing a pretty basic assumption of the view side, at least, that the value, you can ask the amount value, and that's really not a true thing anymore. Now, what's funny to me, okay, good, test pass. All right, now let's try them again. Whoops. Well, let's run them again. Just since we have no build, we should see our quick test. Slight build. Okay, much faster than we had been seeing anyway. That part's good. All right, let's just hard code it to 0 and see the consequences. Now, I think it's okay because the way well, let's see. The way we calculate amount, we will have an amount spec because that's where we got the value. So if it worked with a value, then I think it might be okay. Oh, I hit run instead of test. Ugh. Okay, that's pretty encouraging. Now we want to run with it. Well, I guess I did. Oh, it's gone now, right? I really would love to test it, just run their own simulator so I don't have to bounce around. Okay, let's see. So the change Well, we're no longer calling value in the constructor, so that's a good thing. We did not retain we probably because it blew up before it tried to save anything. Come on, simulator. 50 of salary. Update. Okay, a new error. Same error. For a different cause. Okay, no, this is different. Now we're working with scenarios. Okay. I don't know if this is right or wrong that it's doing this, but it's definitely I think we can see scenario here. Yeah. Oh, is nil. So are we still in UI? Content view. No, we're calculating net worth. All right. How is it you don't have a scenario when you're calling a net worth thing? Amount value at scenario is nil. Map. Okay. Well, this is progress. Okay, I think we should take the progress we have. We modified the constructor. Wherever that got to. Okay, we modified. Everybody creating one of these things passes in a true amount, and so we're just zeroing out amount original. Does anybody reference this for any useful purpose? I think only all in this file. Okay, so if we fail to have an amount spec, we have that. Which, can we fail that? I don't think we can, right? I mean, this is amount, it's not amount question mark. So amount spec is never nil. Okay. Oh, but it is nil in one case. Okay. Yeah, and that is if you're creating it, if you're reading it in and it was created under the old regime of just having an amount and using that, then we will have a nil amount spec in the codable side. So amount spec is optional. Where's amount spec held? Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's optional. Okay, I guess I should move that closer to the other fields. Okay, yeah, so the codable says, oh, there's no amount. And then when somebody says, give me the amount, we call amount original. But if you're creating these things with our constructor, that will never happen. Okay. All right. So, well, run them again just to make sure I haven't messed anything up. Now, the other thing we were seeing was we were calling this thing with scenario nil to compute possibilities or net worth. I don't think that's legit. I'm not sure how that would happen unless maybe we messed up handing it down. Which could be because we did all our tests at the level of amount and Leia and haven't really tested the other stuff too much, I don't think, for that. Okay, so this is default amount original to $0. Rather than computing value. Okay. Yeah, finally we're making some progress. Okay. Let's update our to-do a little bit. Okay, so preserve relative to money and edit stream view, that we did. Whirlpool. And then, okay, I don't know if this is the same. Storing a relative amount requires scenario doesn't save properly. Okay, I guess we're saying we make Leia default amount original to 0 on construction. Okay, that is good. Storing a relative amount requires scenarios and doesn't save properly. That's confusing. All right, so I think we're back to, I guess I'm back to value. That's on amount. Okay, who are the callers? Test, test, test. Okay, created amount. That one we've done okay. Yeah, we're passing in a nil, so something's funny. Let's see these colors again. Edit stream view, edit pool, we created amount. Get background color. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so again, this is we're computing this value, but that no longer makes sense because a relative stream doesn't have a value number per se. And again, this thing of are you negative or not, and income versus expense. Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe where's color live? Is it a guess we'll go look it up. Is that a view? Is that Swift UI code? Let's just pretend we're going to reference it. It is Swift UI. So what, again, so this background one, and this is non-negative. I think maybe they've got the wrong question. Well, I mean, I could return the color name. When value is called, we never pass in a scenario. Yeah, you may be right. Certainly not in here. But I guess I'm wondering, like, this is right on that line between what's domain and what's model. But like the color implied by something, I don't know. It's. I mean, red for negative and green for positive is pretty well established. You know, that's not wrong. Do I want to? Well, so what I'm looking at is, should I move this name, this string name, into Leia? Well, it's not even a Leia thing, is it? Where do we use this? Is it on his income? Oh. We don't? So that says I can comment this out and it's just fine. But didn't we blow up there? Or I'm just getting all references, I guess. Okay. Yeah, value is called we never pass in a scenario. I think we do or should, but maybe we don't. That we'd have to look at net worth and all that. Okay, so that all built. Let's run. I'm not sure how we do it now, but how we did it. Stream amount view. Oh, he codes it. Okay. All right, so that didn't blow up. All right, so delete dead code. Oh, and I should look up its partner edit pool view because they're very parallel. I think this is one of those, I was hoping it would kind of get so similar it could eventually just merge. Okay, there's created amount. Where's that background? Oh, we ought to get rid of it there. Okay. All right, where's the other usages? Value. We should see some that pass in, to your point, pass in a scenario. Oh, okay. Tests. It's only calling it there. I don't know why he needs to know that. Oh, value does. Okay. Okay, so yeah, you're right. We never pass in the scenario. And yet we always should. Okay, so then the question is, why is this doing what it's doing? Hey, Elemental Magic card game, welcome. Well, we're a little bit buried in in wading through junk, but I'm feeling good. More tester in development, but yes. All right. So, but type-driven development as well, if you want to say it that way. We're using breaking up into smallish types. So I think this amount spec, the only reason we need it in our view is because we're using it down here to create it. Okay. Yeah, so what it's basically doing is normalizing that amount to be an actual positive or negative number. So we never let people type in a negative number for their amount. They should either tell us it's an asset or a liability or income or expense. They should be telling us that. So to me, this is kind of it just, again, I'm back to this thing that it seems wrong that I'm managing the sign and that this should just be amount and amount spec and not anything else. But our amount spec doesn't know which way it goes, so we have to pass that sign in. Should it? Okay, that's a different question. Okay. Yeah, I kind of wish we could say that. There's there's a lot that avoid the test period. Okay. But back. Okay, so that's who's calling created amount is local, but this thing is at the time you're creating the object. I don't think that seems wrong, but I think this thing we're looking at here, who's calling this, and the fact that we're not seeing anybody pass in scenarios is really funky. Okay, do we have tests for amount that use this? Let's make sure that's true. In amount, okay, he does look at this with scenarios coming in. It's a very simple scenario, okay. But somebody's got to call it, right? I mean, is it only amount? Okay, who calls this? Oh, sorry. Well, that's actually... Okay. Amount, good value at. Okay, scenario.net worth, that's kind of the one I'm thinking of. Where's that called, though? Possibilities.net worth. Okay. Amount has two tests with scenario, and production reduce does not pass one. Yes, you're right. Okay, so this calls possibilities, which generates all the scenarios and calculates their net worth. Okay, net worth over range. I'm not seeing, where's value in here? Is it net? Stream.amount. Okay, yeah, so this, okay, so scenario, well, I guess that sort of is saying stream.amount, oh, could pass the scenario. Okay. Right. So these two, I mean, I could make them pass self, but I think we clearly don't have a test that cares because they would fail otherwise. How do we make this? Right, because I think we've put all the pieces in place to pass scenario. We just didn't pass scenario. So theoretically, some test of scenario should be able to say, I detect this. Yeah, maybe that's all we have to do. So a scenario. Okay. Can't find missing streams. Okay, well, let's just create something. Function. So I think what we're saying, we've got to make sure the scenario passes that in. So it's got to affect Leia with the amount, and then that affects amount.value. So it's got to be something where the date range is valid, and then we call amount.value, and he's relative. Okay, yeah, so I think a simple one of these will do it. Let's create a Leia with a money, and then a relative that points to it. And we got to put them both in the scenario. Okay. A scenario. Calculates relative amount. Maybe that's all we have to say. Okay, so let's build a scenario. Okay. And then we're going to need, this one will do. It's a little more work than I really like. Okay, but relative is Leia, name, rel, amount is relative 50% of job. Okay, and now if you calculate, oops, no. Okay, I'm not going to worry about dates. They're not really affected by the stream stuff. But if I said sut dot, I want the net income, net worth. I guess net income would be fine. Yeah, we just need the net income. Okay, so arbitrary date. Well, equals money 1,500. Okay, so if I have a job that makes 1,000 and somebody gives me 50% of that job as a bonus of some sort, then I should get 1,500 for the income at that month. All right, and this should fail. I guess it will get blown up because we're going to a relative and we're saying find the scenario, and it's got no scenario to look in, so it blows up. Rashid V0, VO, welcome. So we're working on a program to basically let you define your money in and assets and liabilities, you know, kind of your money situation looking out over probably 3 years to retirement kind of thing. And one of the things we're adding now is the notion of a scenario that can find its values based on another one. So we just set up this case. I've got a scenario. I have a job that pays me $1,000 a month, and I have a relative, which is a relative income that's half of the job income. And we have notions of a scenario. So this scenario knows there's a job and it knows there's a rel and all that stuff. But we are not yet using that knowledge to calculate the amount. We need to know the scenario it's in. And we don't have that yet. Scenario is self, because this is on scenario. All right, and so I'm hoping that makes this test pass. So Elemental and Rashid, are you Swift programmers, or what kind of stuff are you into? All right, and our test passed. Yay. Okay. So add scenario to net worth calculation of income streams. Now it also tells me we're missing a test, and we haven't dealt with pools too much for this notion, but I think it makes sense to say you've got an asset that you have a relative amount of. So let's repeat the test, but change it to be pools. So this is relative amount of a stream, and we'll make the new one that's of a pool. Okay, and this is maybe my house, and well, it's a little artificial, but let's give this thing make it a modest house, and then this is relative to the house. It's artificial in the sense that nobody really gives you an asset, a percentage of an asset that you own yourself. So it's a little funny, but we could imagine an asset that's present in the scenario, but not owned by the person we're calculating for, I guess. All right. And this date was arbitrary, but now it's 150,000. Okay, so $100,000 house plus half a house is $150,000 house. Not so common in my neighborhood anymore. A lot of inflation. All right, this test should fail. Expect is net asset. Oh, thank you. Try that again. Okay, good. And I'm guessing that 100,000. Oh, we got 0. Well, I'm curious why it says 0. Okay, well, let's do the fix. And all right, so this one we calculate stream.amount, pool.amount, amount takes scenario. Yeah, okay. 0 seems like a wrong answer. Okay. Yeah, I should have expected it to blow up like the other one did. What's the matter? Oh, I added these as streams, not pools. Let's call this house. Okay. And I'm going to take this back out. I want the failure I should expect, which I think is blowing up because there's no scenario. Yeah, that's better. At least it's the problem we want. All right, so let's delete this. Okay, well, what are you getting? 100,000. Have I relative? These are pools. I am not sure. We've never done one, probably. That could be. I mean, nothing here distinguishes pool. I mean, mostly I don't see why it should matter because you don't normally distinguish the pool. It's not an update situation. We don't search in pools for the name. Oh, good point. I know it was definitely a question in my mind about should we support pools, but they do make sense kind of numerically. Let's find that. Where was that blow up? Was it amount? Yeah. So scenario.find. Oh, stream. Yeah. Okay. Right. Who calls this? I hope it's only the two places. Amount. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this I had to change that name, but I think this is the right way because we have to distinguish we calculate pools and streams differently because streams accumulate money over time. But we keep track of two sets of these that map names to the asset. So I think what we're saying there is if it's in the stream, take that. Otherwise, look in the pools. And if it's neither one, it'll be a nil. And that's the optional. But it would be good to look for any other buddy that might depend on that. I guess there weren't that many callers. Okay. Good catch. Yeah. Okay. I think this should just be underscore. Now, I don't know if I can rename this. This would be fun. Not while my indexing's going on. Yeah, I mean, that's minor. Oh, this is something we don't need to test because we don't do it anymore. Don't worry about it. Okay. Right, but it doesn't deal with my rename. Where was that? I think there's only a few places, a couple, well, one caller and some tests. So I'm going to do a build. Okay, this should really be a Leia name. And then let's check our relative. Doesn't say. Okay. Money was never used. True. True. Okay. Test should be good. No. Did I miss one? Yes. Well, I like that we're getting rid of that distinction. I mean, there are places we have to know if it's a pool or a stream, but the fewer of those, the better. All right. I expect everything to pass. I should say that. Okay. So we made relative computation work for pools, and I think streams were already working, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is good. I mean, I think that says our model side is working end to end now, and that's a really good thing. I think there's still some gaps that you can have. If you don't find it, we're not handling it very well there. Well, no, are we okay? What's the type of that? Is he knowable? Well, this one is, right? Oh, come on. What's going on there? Let's try there. This is not stream, it's name. Okay. Get that refactoring checked in. Well, we'll change this too. I'm not sure relative streams are presented correctly in the list. In the display, yeah, I think they're. I'm not even clear we've. I'm not clear we've eliminated the blow up we had either. Even, but maybe because we were at the possible net worth stuff. Okay, and make sure this changed cat. Okay. Okay, so I think our model is in much better shape. This case, if scenario doesn't find it, right, pools a lookup in a hash table returns a null or nil, and so base will be nil. There will be a scenario in this case now. Whether people, who's calling it without, yeah, maybe that's the next case. Yeah, we do call this. We never call it in the relative case, though. I guess this one gives me a visible list, so let's take that. All right, so value, calling value has scenario. These test ones don't. This one does not. Is non-negative. That's used in the view. Yeah, this, again, I'm back to this non-negative asset thing. I mean, I think if you ask a relative value, display the percentage or the value or both. I think we should be displaying the percentage because the value doesn't have a single value. It could be, well, let me see this. Let me do a run. I don't know if we can set up the situation, but I can talk it through, I think. Okay. Right. So these are just individual things. The situation I'm thinking is, if we create a scenario with three different Social Security values, that scenario has three possibilities. Then the next entry is an income stream that takes a percentage of those Social Security values. They're all named Social Security, but each one has a different value depending which scenario you're in. And so it really does definitely depend on the scenario, because we do these kind of multiplying scenarios that you could have, multiple cases for this spouse or this spouse. And, the total scenario depends on the combination of them. So there really is no name to say that would generically apply, where this view is kind of generic across all scenarios. So I think it really should just be saying the relative name. Now let's try it and see if we get anywhere now. But I don't know. I guess we've never gone far enough to save it. Salary. Okay. So I think this is a legitimate one. Okay. So we are calling, it's that non-negative thing. Okay. We're asking a relative amount. Are you non-negative? Now, I think we could say yes is almost the right answer. And the real answer is I shouldn't be asked this question, but let's go back here. So we did the search a minute ago. This is really being used to decide what type stream do I have, income or expense. Now, that kind of doesn't make as much sense for a relative value, but because we can't really say, we just know the name of it. We don't know the scenario, whether it's positive or negative. So we can't tell you if we should be. That complexity. I mean, it doesn't seem like a sign should be that tricky, but it's definitely coming out from that. Is non-negative. Okay, so Leia. Right. All right. So I think I'm going to make an expedient definition. Yeah, I think it should be a different color. And see, the question we're being asked, right? Well, knowing if it's an income or not, that tells us if we have to multiply by -1. But it's not really our job to multiply in the case of a relative value. It also gets used to determine what color, I believe. Let's check that. But, well, stream amount view. Right, they use that. But they're not asking is negative. Oh, they are here. Okay, money amount view asks background color. Relative amount view doesn't ask. So we just do a generic, well, it just defaults to the gray that we use by default. So that's something. Now, what are they saying here? Oh, he's not relative to that. Okay. Yeah. It's a big refactoring, and I don't know if I don't see my way to the other end of it, I guess, as far as the income versus asset versus positive and negative and all that stuff. I don't even think it'll be green. I think it'll show correctly. It's just being asked, it's trying to figure out, is it an income? And the relative amount doesn't really do anything with that information. Okay, so I'm gonna, well, we're due for a break, but I think what we'll do is we'll add a thing that says answer this question for an amount, and we'll make it say yes, I'm non-negative for our relative ones, just to kind of get through. But I think if we do fold positive, negative, income, expense, liability, whatever, we fold all those into the 4 cases directly, I think that'll go away. Okay, but let's take a break first. We've gone long enough. All right, so see you in probably 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll come back, add this non-negative thing, and make sure we can get through saving. Right? Welcome back. All right, keep it green for now. Yeah, it actually could be green. I don't know what. This doesn't show the actual stream view. Oh yeah, here's stream view. Yeah, so he seems to only know those 2 things. Okay, yeah, it'll be what it is for now. All right, Leia. Return. Okay, so that's checking the range stuff. I think is non-negative is a little more fundamental. Well, actually, really what's going on is this, even this little thing is already like a feature envy thing where we have an object, and instead of asking it, is it non-negative, we tear it apart and decide for ourselves. So really this should just become amount.is non-negative. So let's extract it, and then I'll backfill some tests, I guess. But he's going to need a very similar function on amount. Okay, value, I guess that kind of comes before value. And this is self.value. Okay. Leia should just ask amount dot is non-negative. Okay. And I'm kind of okay putting it here. Set dot is non-negative. Okay. And then let's make this test for negative. I think we do it that way. Okay. Relative amount. Well, okay. Amount always is non-negative if relative. And actually, we don't even need that. Okay, and these tests should all pass if I've refactored properly. I believe description does put the minus sign in, and I think it puts it in after the dollar sign. We don't have it up, but we'll check in a moment. Okay, and now we got to implement it. Yeah, so when we're creating it, I mean, I want them to, they mark it as either asset or expense, sorry, asset or liability, or income or expense. And so we know the sign from that, but if the value they edit, we don't want to say it's an asset of minus 100 because that just kind of sounds weird. So we make them edit it as a non-negative value and flip the sign depending whether they chose an incoming an income. Well, I gotta find words for these things. I don't know them, but yeah, we do put the minus there, but the editing of it, it will say this is an expense. Now that's not right. So we probably should change that because it should be a $500 expense is how that should show up. Okay, so let me add that to our endless to-do list. Liabilities and expenses. Okay. Storing a relative amount seems to require serial. Okay. Yeah, so now we have a chance. All right, let's close this one and let's edit this one. Relative 50. Salary. Okay. Please save. Okay, that's getting better. So it's saved. That means we got through a lot of problems. Okay, one of them is not, did we save this amount? Huh. Okay, so when we start this screen, we've apparently reset the type and it should have come back as a relative. Okay. Alrighty. Let's review this to do. So, Storing relative amount seems to require a scenario. Okay, so we fixed that. Relative amounts no longer need a scenario to edit them. Edit and save them. Okay, but EditStream created amount should return a relative amount. Created amount returns a relative amount. Okay, we did that one. And we have an edit pool view. Same thing there. Okay. Stream or pool. Not the best way to write that, but just returns a relative amount. Okay. Check how valid and description are done. They can't get a value without a scenario. Well, I think that's basically what we've done, is we've fixed that. Okay. Now, the thing we haven't done is relative amount type is not preserved for editing, if I can say it that way. Okay. Amount creation / editing. Now that's kind of part of that. Okay. Let's go. Where's amount view? Okay, so something in our initialization is ignoring that. Stream amount view, amount type. We got an amount. Yeah, we need the type to. All right, who, there's amount view. Who calls this? Switch amount type. I think we need to make sure this amount type gets set. Well, okay, we seem to be doing that. So what we saw was it retained the percentage and the name, but it didn't retain the amount type. Amount, projected value, amount. Now we do the same thing for date view. Date specifier view, yeah. date type equals. Well, it shouldn't need to be persisted. It should be reflected in our amount type. Maybe we screwed up how that gets stored. Okay, if it's set to money, it should come up with the money view. But when we come back in, on change of amount type, update values, which does that. Maybe we need to do that up here. Right, because we initially established them. We know the amount. And we computed the amount type, but the way we are now, nothing does it until it changes. Or there's on change lets you specify that you want it. There's a Boolean you can do. Yeah, initial. That'll do it the first time. Yeah, so when it initially appears. So I think we could set that there instead. There's a default value. I don't think so. We calculate amount type based on the wrapped value coming in. So there's an amount coming in. We dig it out. We have a binding to it. We dig out the protected value. We decide what our local amount type should be. But I think the thing we don't do until I'm changing this, we don't set amount. Oh, wait a minute. Amount is binding amount. Oh, does that not get set? Let me take that definition off. And let me also take off that initial true. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay, so that looks right. And now he's right. Okay, yeah, so it was that hard-coded. You're right. If we hadn't set the state, we could change it once, but we had set it so it was restricted. Okay. That's looking right then. Okay, so let's save that. Make relative amount report itself as non-negative, and initialize amount type correctly in amount view. Okay. And I think it was green, right? Isn't that the... Yeah, so it did show up as green. Okay. Well, maybe that's the thing to work on tomorrow. I don't want to start it now because it's going to be bigger than a half an hour change. Maybe we could start, but I think I'd like to get this consistent with the other where we said 50%. But he does come up correctly. It's not very compelling to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just so vanilla. All right, let's find one that's negative. Let's get job 2. Okay, yeah, this is going to demonstrate it. So it's fine saying it's 50% of job 2, but It paints it green. Okay. Yeah, maybe this is not a bad change. All right. So what it's a little bit of a mix of UI and model thinking, but to say what kind of entity you are, I'm I'm an asset, I'm an income, I'm an expense, I'm a liability directly or indirectly. I'm kind of a neutral, or I'm a relative value. I mean, I would honestly like this to just be gray. I think if I put a group in, some group, yeah, he's got a light gray background. That's kind of what I was expecting for those. But we could think of other schemes. Right, but I think if a Leia knew, it it should know if it's, how does it know if it's an income, sorry, an asset or an income? Maybe that's the question I don't have answered yet. Because, yeah, he does not know. Source for the type and the value. Well, unfortunately, no, because of the scenario problem. His type and value is not fixed, right? Because they could be in scenarios with two different things. Which maybe, I don't know, maybe the relative. Let's see, let's make one again. Like maybe this relative thing is just wrong to be money versus relative. No, I don't think it's wrong. I think it's relative is independent of pool or stream though, and that's what's confusing to me. But how it doesn't know if it's asset, liability, income, or expense. That seems like a gap. And the way you see that, since we were just there, no, not up anymore. Let's find net worth is in scenario, right? Scenario. Okay, yeah. So the reason we have to have two sets of maps is because this is the only place we know if something's a pool or a stream. Okay, yeah, thinking to do wise. Relative amount type is preserved now. I should write these right the first time. Constructive things. Amount creation, editing. I think that's basically done. Check signs is not an amount thing. It's a real thing. This is done. I mean this stuff was to finish that. Okay, so now have relative amounts for streams or pools. And actually, amount doesn't either exactly. Yeah, it can definitely be either one, depending. Oh, yeah, that's true too, I guess. I mean, we could create a pool in one scenario and a stream in the other. Maybe that's more of a difference than I had assumed. I mean, maybe this should be, maybe fold these two together, make this drop down have asset, liability, income, and expense, or maybe asset and income and then liability, expense. And relative. And then maybe that's a totally different thing, and it's not a characteristic of the amount. It's more a characteristic of how you'd edit this thing. Yeah, that might be a better way to go. All right, so should relative amounts be a separate top level entity like asset? I got there. Okay. Make date and scenario required for valid value computation. Well, yeah. I don't think we can yet, because there are places that call value that do not know scenario. I don't think they necessarily should. Okay, clearly any of these tests we could add a scenario to. Amount. Okay, that's the one. Edit pool view. Yeah, this case. And that's where I think if we got the asset liability thing right, it would not show up here. It would show up in net worth. You know, we'd have to decide, are you asset or liability? Okay, and then this is the same one. Created amount. Yeah, I think maybe we are fixing that problem. And this one has scenario. Okay, so that will keep. This one's easy. Let's do that. I think I kind of gave away the view here. This is stream view Leia dot description. Where does description come? Amount. No. Here's a stream view. Streams.dates.description. Oh, there's stream.amount. Okay. Right. That's not what we're after. Relative should not say, it can be different. Yeah. I guess I'm rereading old comments. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think the place we just were, this is stream view. He should be asking the amount for a description. Yeah. Okay, that seems reasonable. And we have a description. Okay. Oh, he's custom string convertible, so that description is implicit. All right, so now I guess what I'm saying is I wish this were different. If I say this, what breaks? I don't know if our tests check custom string convertible. Good. Wherever it is, hopefully it's an amount. Right. I would like this to say, and it says 0.67%, I'm guessing. Yeah. I want it to say 67% of source stream. Okay. I don't know what my to-do said, but it had the answer in it. Format precision, okay. Ratio formatted at percent precision, so it could say 0.3 of. Maybe that's 0. I think it might come up with 67.0%. Does it tell me in here? I think it does. Yeah. Oh. Yep. Okay. So amount should not have that in there because percent already does it. I think I want this to just be 0. So limit it so only the amount is allowed to be changed. The type and sign. Yeah, but they have to decide which one they're making. So that's still fine. Okay, that's better. 50% of job, like it did in the other one. All right. Let's take this little tiny UI win. Display relative amounts as percent all numbers. Okay. So now let's close. Let's start with Leia. Okay. Oh, I should mark my to-do. Yeah. Okay. Leia. Limit the changes made to assets in scenarios such that only amount is allowed to change. Yeah. Okay, what I guess I want the type. Now, nothing. Okay, this one. The type controls this, I think. I'm going to get rid of this update functionality one of these days, I think. Because the way it is now, if you put the same name in twice, it just overrides whatever values it can, and we have to have values that can update or not. Right. I don't know if I can name something type. Okay, let's enum Leia type. Okay, just didn't like this, right? Okay, I'm not going to add the relative for now, even though that might be where we go eventually. All right, now to use this thing, I have to make it optional. And then well, how do you know what it is now? I guess it comes down to, well, what does it come down to? Is scenario? But he's not codable. Scenarios is not codable. Something must know. Person's plan is codable. Okay. Yeah. Plan. I don't think. Yeah, we can sort of do that. I don't think we can tell pool versus stream from the Leia. I think this is what knows that. Plan is what knows that. And he says the type. I think it's on the wrong level. Okay, so scenarios that I add to the pool to the stream. Yeah, we'll be able to get rid of that. And unfortunately now, yeah, at the Leia level we don't. Passing the type from the plan, creating the Leia. Yes. But again, we're complicated by the persistence. And I don't know, I'm giving myself two constraints. One is I don't want to write persistence manually. And the other is I want to preserve the persistence the way it is now. And sorry, if I read an existing file, I don't want it to break. Now maybe I can do a little migration. Because the problem we have with persistence now, Codable does not call any of these constructors. Codable calls its own constructor that just by default knows to read each field, and if it's optional, don't require it. Okay. But the places we create Leias, they can tell. All right. But I think we can look at giving this value. I think this is reasonable. It's okay with me if it duplicates it. Like if we can make sure that when a plan writes a Leia, that it now sets the type. At that point, any files that get written will update those types. And at that point, every Leia will have a type, and I could make the plans version of the type be optional. Or I could map it. If I let myself write all those boilerplatey IO things, it's probably not that hard. But we could do this in multiple stages. So get it in the Leia. Don't require it in the Leia yet. Don't use it in the Leia. Just work on getting it into production, such as production is, for myself and my real user. Get them to save, load and save their file without making any real changes. And I think at that point, then we could go through and create the next version and start deleting some types, make them optional, and or ignore them, and that would be okay. All right, so Leia, I mean, so far we've made an optional type. There's nothing breaking by adding an optional type. I think I need to know these 4 things. All right, and I think I could tell you the type if you asked me. All right, now I don't know if I can call it type. If our type is Leia type. All right. Cannot be declared public because it type uses an internal type. Ooh, good point. Public enum Leia type. Okay. I could return Leia. Well, I guess it knows it. Return dot asset. Okay. But the real thing I can do is Leia type else and I'm not sure what the else should be, but I could hard code it to income is kind of right most of the time. Okay, if I did this, nothing's going to break because nobody ever asks for the Leia type. And so it's kind of an anonymous thing. Another alternative would be to provide one that says unknown, and then some other thing would have to do a mechanism. Yeah, or expense if it's negative. Yeah, I could do that. if I knew my amount type was a money, at least in the current structure. It's like, what do I flip? I guess the real thing I flip, well, are these are structs. So I can't really let somebody come back in later and say, oh, no, I decided you're going to be an asset. So I guess when a plan loads its types. Okay. Yeah, I think this would be a workable mechanism. I could say when a plan I was going to say when it loads its types, no, it's Leia's. It should make sure they are typed. So that would kind of argue for an unknown case, or unspecified. And then I could at some point walk them. After that, you could check the Leia type better. Merge streams and pools. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I want to merge streams and pools until I have Leia's fully knowing their type. And then I don't need two separate lists. I could just manage it as one list. And that seems good to me, because right now I'm putting them in two separate lists because I compute net worth separately, which may not be any better. Is that possibilities? Let's see, where does he run through those? Yeah, net worth runs through net income and it runs through net assets. And that's the two places that distinguish them, and the find no longer does. So, okay. If I knew they were all specified with a type, now I'm allowed to add and remove. Yeah, so I mean, I guess I could judiciously load these things, and if I'm writing them, I could go through the plan and turn any unspecified Leia, replace it with the right one. So if I'm working from the pools list, I have to do it one way, the streams list another. And get them written out that way. So phase 1 is add Leias with allow types. Phase 2 is make plans enforce types. And then phase 3, I can kind of clean up and take that value away from, I'll break this distinction. They'll just make them both go through and find the one they want, and that kind of thing. So, all right. So I think what I'm saying is, for now, there's an unspecified. Okay. And the constructor, is he going to have the Leia type? Right, yeah. Leia type. Oh, Leia type. Okay. And I could say equals dot unspecified. Okay. And at this point, I think I've made a neutral change. Everybody will get one. They'll all have unspecified. I'll make this just be Leia type. Right. Or unspecified. Okay. Well, let that run. Then we'll run it again. I always start my test too soon. Okay, that seemed okay. I don't think this will be any worse because nobody asks for type. Right. Okay. So this is one of these weird refactorings. It's not... it's one of these where I'm kind of making room for something by... I'm creating a new field that's never filled in. And always, when you ask about it, it's going to say unspecified. But it's making room for the actual changes. And so I think our goal is going to be, we're going to want to get rid of this default value. Okay, so let me... let me add that down here. Okay. So this is make Leia know its type and then remove default type of unspecified. Okay, so I think doing those things would help. Okay. Set to be a top level entity like asset. Okay, that's, yeah. So I think we're going to work on this tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, I think that'll be something. All right. Do I have anything checked out? Yeah. All right. So add unused Leia type to Leia. Okay. And then I think we can, well, we'll have to work on making it, making our persistence update matter. So my user can take his stuff and have it write it out with a type. So we'll have to do a little conversion thing, I guess, at some point. But that's all right. Okay, well, I think we made it through the worst of the relative amount stuff. I think we have a good idea for something that will address this negative number problem and maybe gives us a different basis to put the relative stuff. Maybe it becomes a top level thing on Leia type. I don't know. They're very different. But I think we've set up some nice changes, I hope. All right. Well, have a good evening. Thanks for joining, and I will catch you tomorrow or in the future, 2 to 4:30 Eastern, 6 to 8:30 p.m. UTC. Good night.